Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for attending today and participating as we are going through my presentation of Going Skin Deep. Just a little bit about myself. I am basically have broken down my background, so you know why am I qualified to give today's presentation. So I'm a registered licensed dietitian. I'm licensed to practice in the state of Minnesota. And during that time, I have experience in hospitals. I've done both inpatient and outpatient. I'm currently still a consultant for a lot of group home companies. I also consult for several adult day centers, and I also do some substance abuse treatment centers. I've done a lot of speaking engagements over my many years of doing this, presented all over the country. And then I also have a functional medicine nutrition business. And for those of you that aren't aware of that, in functional medicine, we believe that the body is able to heal itself when given the right tools, whereas in more conventional medicine, which I still have one foot in, we believe more in taking a pill for an ill. So that's what my background is. And so just a reminder that if you are currently working with somebody in this information, that you will follow the guidelines of your practitioner. This is not meant to be a replacement for that, but this is just put together based on my education, my understanding, the studies, the research, the practice and personal use that I have all encountered and put together to share with others. So these are the objectives. We're going to talk about ingredients to avoid. We're going to talk about nutrition for the skin. We're going to talk a little bit about essential oils. I have some things that you can take away as far as how to replace maybe current things that you are using with other types of products, and even some recipes if you are interested in making some of your own products. I did put together a handout for you with what I felt was the most important information. And I believe that you are getting a copy of the slides, but otherwise feel free to take a picture or screenshot of any of the information that you would so like. So to start out with, how many ingredients do you think that most people put on their skin? If you'd like to type your answer into the chat, Kathy will monitor those, and then she will present some of the answers. So I'll give you a minute for that. The average woman uses 12 personal care products every day. And when I did this presentation last week, actually, I gave a lot of this information to one of the treatment centers I was presenting at. And I counted that morning, and I actually had used 12 products. And that was just from what I used in the shower, what I used to get ready, and for my hair. That wasn't even counting any of my makeup. So I was pretty surprised. The average man uses about 6 products. So ladies, our average is about 168 different chemicals that are in that average use of the 12 skincare products. And men, you're about less, you're about 100 different unique types of chemicals that could be in the types of products that you are using. And so you might thinking, okay, well, what's the big deal, right? Well, our skin is our largest organ, and we absorb about 60 to 70% of what we put on it. Our bodies are like little sponges. And so we swallow lip balm and lipstick and gloss. We absorb makeup and shampoo and soap and lotion and deodorant. And then anything we use is a spray. So maybe it's a deodorant, maybe it's hairspray, maybe it's perfume. So we are inhaling all of that. And as I see societies becoming more health conscious, it would seem reasonable to think that if people are becoming more concerned about what they are putting into their bodies, that perhaps they are starting to get a little bit more concerned about what they are putting on their bodies as well. So we are also seeing the effects of not only with these chemicals and that are in our personal care products, but they are also doing things to impact other parts of our body, such as our hormones, such as our digestive health, and even our brain. Well, in Europe, they have taken a stand against many of these different types of chemicals, and they have actually banned over 1,300 chemicals. So what do you, write this in the chat, what do you think the US has banned as far as chemicals in our skincare products? So take a moment and put your guess down. Boy, you are good guessers because the answer is 11. Wow. You guys did great. So we see that there's quite a discrepancy here. So, is this really a concern? Well, I think it is, because unfortunately, it isn't that we are just exposed to one chemical at a time. I think that that would be far safer. But again, we are being bombarded with all of these chemicals. So it's not only in our skincare products and our makeup and things like that, but we're getting it from chemicals in our carpet, in our shower curtains, and we're putting food in plastic containers. And so because we are exposed to so many chemicals wherever we go, that exposure could actually be thought of as being almost a constant bombardment. And so no one really knows what the actual harmful effects are going to be over the course of time. But what we are seeing and starting to put together is that it is probably a combination of all of these chemicals that are working together to increase that disease risk. And then on top of it, adding fuel to the fire is that there are actually specific chemicals that are being put into our products to ensure that they will penetrate deeper into the skin. So I'm also willing to bet that you know at least one person, whether it's yourself or somebody else, that has an allergy of some sort or some kind of an autoimmune condition. And if you think back maybe 10 to 15 years ago, many of the things that people are dealing with today really weren't that prevalent. So could this be the result of what it is that we are putting on our bodies in addition to all the other exposure that we might be getting? So I'm going to ask you another question, one that you have probably never been asked before. But would you eat your skincare products? So if you want to type a yes or a no, maybe I have, whatever the case may be, and let me know. And if you want to put in, why you have or why you wouldn't, that would be fine too. So yeah, even if you didn't look in the ingredients, I'm sure this is something you've never thought of or wouldn't even dream of doing. However, we have a lot of things that we'll be talking about that are affecting a lot of the different systems in our bodies. So yes, I would agree with you. All of these chemicals that we are going to be looking at. So when it comes to some of these endocrine disruptors, which I think are some of the worst offenders that are available, perhaps you've heard of that term, an endocrinologist. Sometimes people will see that type of medical specialty. And what the endocrine system makes up is a whole series of glands. So that involves the pituitary and the hypothalamus in the brain, and the endocrine system, the pancreas, the ovaries, the testes, the thymus. And so it is all of these glands that are working very carefully together to put out very minute and very specific amounts of hormones into the bloodstream. And so they act as these natural chemical messengers so that they are keeping everything in line, or are supposed to. But then we can have these endocrine disruptors that come into play. And then what they do is that they are either antagonizing or mimicking or acting like what these our natural hormones should be doing. So the body's like, gosh, you look close enough, like this hormone I should be taking into this receptor. There's just a little off, but you know what? You're close enough. I think we're gonna take you in. And so then the problem is that they are sitting on the receptor sites where our natural hormones are supposed to be going in. And then they are playing a role in throwing off a lot of our different hormone levels. And this can lead to some of the problems that we see here. So development of infertility, mental and behavioral changes, thyroid issues, and some of the diseases. So we are even seeing, or studies are showing that even babies have been, or the tests that they've done on babies on the umbilical cord, they have found hundreds of toxic chemicals that are already in the umbilical cord tissue. And some of the things that I've been seeing and hearing more about is that girls as young as 8-year-olds or 8 years old are starting to have their menses, and some overweight boys are developing gynecomastia, which is the development of breast buds. And more so than a decade ago, we're seeing 6'4" and taller, primarily boys, but we're seeing taller girls as well. And so the thought is that perhaps this ongoing exposure to these endocrine disruptors is what is causing a lot of these earlier problems and development. So we are going to now look at some of these very specific ingredients in some of our skincare products, what they can be found in, and why they are so concerning. And so I broke those down into a couple of different lists. I just didn't want to be cramming a slide full of these, but we're going to take a look at these one at a time. And again, this is not an all-inclusive list, but these are just some of the more common things that you will probably come across and might be a good place to start if you choose to evaluate your own products for these items. So we're going to start with coal tar. And coal tar has been banned in Europe because it is a known cancer-causing agent. In fact, the National Cancer Institute Society says that the exposure to any of this coal tar can actually cause skin, lung, bladder, kidney, and even digestive tract cancer. However, dermatologists may still be prescribing it today in certain products that they are utilizing to help some of their patients that have skin conditions like eczema or psoriasis. And what that coal tar does is that it helps reduce the swelling, the itching, and the inflammation. Now, some of the lesser known problems associated with the use of coal tar could be skin irritation. It could be rashes. It could be acne, swelling, stinging, burning. It could cause your hair to become dry or brittle. It can cause stains on light colored clothing. It can even stain light colored hair. So if you're blonde or light gray, that could play more of a role in those. And it can even worsen psoriasis, which I find so interesting because that's the very condition that we are using a lot of these products on to begin with. The next thing we're going to take a look at is DEA. And what DEA is that it is a foaming and wetting agent. And the DEA by itself isn't so bad, but during this chemical structure, what happens is that it starts to formulate another chemical compound called NDEA. And it's that NDEA that has been linked to several different forms of cancer. And so I know there's even times when there's some of the soaps that I use, and it seems I just keep rubbing and rubbing and rubbing my hands together, and it just doesn't seem to get that foamy. We just associate, more foam with more cleaning ability or power. And that isn't necessarily the case. And so I have to remember that, this isn't foaming up that well or as much as I'm used to, because it doesn't have that chemical ingredient to make it foamy. Now, formaldehyde can extend a product's shelf life by preventing the growth of bacteria and yeast and mold. Well, that sounds like a good thing, right? But the source that I took this, I found a quote that I found was fascinating, and this was just from October 13th of last year. And they wrote why they use formaldehyde in their products. So as a result, consumers can enjoy prolonged use of their beauty products without worrying about harmful microorganisms causing skin irritation or infections. Wow, doesn't that sound so nice? Well, if you were in middle school biology, you probably remember the dead frogs that were in the jars, and those frogs were preserved in formaldehyde. So, formaldehyde is a deadly neurotoxin. In fact, they would put the live frogs in the jar, they'd put some formaldehyde in it, they'd close off the jar, and what killed the frogs was actually that neurotoxin effect from the formaldehyde, and then it just kept preserving them until we needed them for science class. Now, formaldehyde is also an asthmagen, meaning that it can actually cause asthma, and it can certainly worsen it for people that do have asthma. And unfortunately, if you like to get your nails done on a regular basis, it is a known carcinogen that is also added to a lot of nail care products in order to extend its shelf life. Sodium lauryl sulfate you will find in a lot of products. There have been more than 16,000 studies that have been done on sodium lauryl sulfate. Again, another one of these common foaming agents, and it also helps to replenish skin dryness. However, it has been linked to organ toxicity, to skin irritation, and to allergies. Propylene glycol is used to manufacture everything from brake fluid to hand lotion because it is a synthetic liquid that absorbs water. However, it has been linked to allergies, eye and skin irritation, digestive issues, and respiratory problems. So that was the first set. Here's some of the additional chemicals that we are going to be going through for you to be on the lookout for. So starting with boric acid and sodium borate, these are chemicals that can cause respiratory problems. So things like cough, difficulty breathing. It can cause eye irritation. It can cause skin rash. So when I hear some of those things, I might be thinking, that might sound like it's some kind of, an environmental allergy. So I might be thinking of that. I wouldn't be thinking of maybe it's related to boric acid use. And then sodium borate, which is an ingredient in the 400 mule team borax. So if any of you are using that. And then boric acid is actually an insecticide. And so these two different boric containing ingredients are actually used in our products as a preservative, as an emulsifier, and as a stabilizer. So there again, when we pump our creams, for instance, we don't like the liquid separating from the solid. So use of these products or these chemicals helps to keep things in suspension. Now in 2020, there is a cosmetic ingredient review board, and they got their panel of experts together. And so these panel of experts reviewed all the scientific data, and they came to the conclusion that, it's relatively safe to be using the boric acid and sodium borate in products as long as the concentration is 5% or less. Well, I don't think I've ever seen a product where it is giving me the percentages of all the different types of chemicals that are in there. So how would I possibly know, what amount of boric acid or other chemicals I'm getting? Now, the term fragrance is among the top 5 allergens in the world. And unfortunately, when you see that word fragrance, it can be a combination of any of 4,000 allowed chemicals. So because fragrance can contain so many ingredients and they are considered to be trade secrets, that's why we are not privy to knowing what they are. Lead, in the form of lead acetate, can be stored in our bones, in our teeth, and that's where lead will accumulate. So it is also a known neurotoxin, which means that it's going to affect our brain, it's going to affect the nerves of our body. But in the cosmetic world, lead acetate is oftentimes used in hair dye and in lipstick, even though in small amounts or even very trace amounts. And even though this may sound minimal, lipstick wearers swallow a little bit of it. And in fact, it is estimated that a woman inadvertently ingests about 4 pounds of lipstick during her lifetime, which means she is going to be getting in some of that lead. And according to the FDA, because lead occurs naturally in our environment, which it does, they feel that its occurrence as an impurity in the cosmetic product just cannot be avoided. Well, that isn't entirely true because there are products out there that are free of lead when tested. And another thing is that we could take a stand as a society and say, I'm just not going to wear lipstick anymore until you figure out how to get out these harmful chemicals. We also have isothiazolanones. Try to say that fast 3 times. And so this is a combination. It is a group of preservatives. And the main ones I'm not even going to try to pronounce. But they are commonly used in things like shampoo and conditioner and body wash and shaving cream. And so these types of products are found to be a significant cause of contact dermatitis, allergic contact dermatitis, as well as possible neurotoxicity. And then we have parabens. Again, this is pretty common. You'll see this listed as propyl, isopropyl, butyryl, and isobutyryl parabens. And the purpose of these is to stop bacterial growth. But again, in doing so, they are affecting the endocrine system. So when we started out talking about all those endocrine disruptors and all of the things that they caused, the parabens are going to be one of these huge categories of these endocrine disruptors. So again, they are estrogen mimicking, and they have been associated with reproductive and developmental disorders, as well as certain forms of breast cancer. So I've been hearing more and more about fertility problems probably in the last 5 years or so. So I'm wondering, could this be in part due to the types of parabens and endocrine disruptors that are in many of our products? We have petroleum distillates, and these are film forming. And because they are forming a film, they are acting as a water repellent. And then they are also adding kind of a glossy look to the skin or wherever it is that we are using them. They are commonly found in makeup, so anything that's going to add a little shine. They're added to hair. So I know there's products out there you can spray or put on just so it makes your hair look shiny. Same thing with nails, skincare products. So anything that's going to have to do with any shimmer or sheen or shine are probably going to be the result of a petroleum distillate. Now, they originate from crude oil and are therefore produced in oil refineries. And because of that, they are more often than not going to be contaminated with cancer-causing impurities. Now, contact with the skin, which is where we're putting on it, right, can cause irritation, burns, and long-term exposure can be the cause of cracked skin, can also cause that dermatitis. It can also harm the liver, the kidneys, and also cause some respiratory or breathing issues. Now, phthalates, and so this is, I wrote here how you may see these listed on a product for the ingredient listing. So they may write out the word, they may put down the abbreviations, but these are industrial plasticizers. And unfortunately, this is one of those that can be disguised under the term fragrance. So you can also find it in hairspray and in mousse and in gel and in lotions. And so what they have found that there is a direct link between the use of phthalates and reduced testosterone, as well as low sperm counts. Now, high phthalate exposure can also lead to reduced fertility, and exposure during pregnancy may cause the child to later develop either cognitive or behavioral issues. The phthalates are also associated with thyroid, liver, kidney, and certain types of thyroid and breast cancers. And then toluene, you might see that abbreviated as BHT. And this is a volatile petrochemical solvent. It's an ingredient in paint thinner, and it's also a potent neurotoxin. And so it can impair breathing, it can cause nausea, it can cause problems with the immune system. And these chemicals are primarily used in either red nail polish or red hair dye. So apparently red is a difficult color to develop or keep in suspension. So this is where that use of the toluene comes into play. And again, a pregnant woman's exposure or just the vapors of the toluene can lead to some impaired fetal development. And then in its natural form, some powders are going to contain talc, which is talc will oftentimes be contaminated with asbestos, which is a deadly carcinogen. And I don't know if anybody remembers this particular case. I remember it vividly. But this was back in 2018 where a couple sued Johnson & Johnson because they had used several of their products, their powder products, for over 30 years. And the individual that brought the case forward and won, his name was Stephen Lanzo. And he said that he developed mesothelioma, which is an aggressive and deadly cancer to the lining of the lungs. And they won. And since then, I've also heard cases about a correlation between ovarian cancer and the use of many powders that women might also use just to stay fresh or put in their undergarments. So that is no longer something that is suggested. So keep the powder probably out of those areas. The problem is that the talc doesn't itself cause the asbestos, but the talc deposits are located near mines that are being mined for minerals. And that is where that cross-contamination of the asbestos is coming from. So it's a cross-contamination issue. So I find it very interesting that many of the products that we are using to look and to feel better are actually stealing the very purpose away of what it is we are using them for. So free radicals are associated as the #1 cause of early skin aging. And so what they do is that they are speeding up the natural aging of our cells. So they start this chain reaction, they break down collagen, they damage the DNA, and then they destroy our cell membranes. So then this causes our skin to be dead and mutated. It makes unhealthy skin cells. And this is what can cause the skin to age or look old before its time. And so as I started out earlier, not only is it important to, now that we're talking about what to be aware of putting on our skin, but what are things that we can do to make our skin healthy from the inside out? And so one of the key ingredients for this is going to be protein. And protein provides the necessary building blocks needed to repair and to rebuild the skin. And so ideally, when you are making your protein selections, so any of your meat, your fish, your chicken, your eggs, ideally you want to be looking for cage-free and grass-fed and organic and without the use of added hormones or antibiotics. Oftentimes we see antioxidants that are added into our skincare products, so primarily vitamins A, C, and E. And these are added because they actually help fight those free radicals, and that's where that anti-aging properties come from. So when making your produce selection, which is where we're primarily going to be finding the vitamins A and C, your vitamin E is going to be more in your fat products. You want to be choosing organic and locally grown produce and things that are in season. And ideally, if you could get in about 5 cups of produce a day, your skin would love you for it. You'd look really youthful. Bone broth is good because it has an abundance of collagen and vitamins and minerals, and that's what can help the body retain or make its own collagen. So it's great for skin and hair and nails, but Again, because we are making bone broth, and basically you're making that just by putting the bones in water and letting that sit for, or cooking that for up to 24 hours if you're making your own bone broth. And unfortunately, we're extracting all these things from the bone in addition to lead, which is, again, what I talked about earlier, is that is where lead is stored. So just keep that in mind. And then lastly, I just can't emphasize enough the importance of good hydration. That's what helps keep the skin soft and pliable, and it really plumps up the skin cells. And so the plumper your cells, the younger you are going to look. So when it comes to good hydration, ideally, we want to be working towards drinking about half of our body weight in fluid ounces. So if a person weighs 200 pounds, ideally working up towards getting towards 100 fluid ounces. So ideally, as much of that from pure fresh water, and alcohol and caffeine aren't going to count. They're actually going to pull a lot of fluids from the body. So sorry. I also included some information on essential oils because I am seeing more and more essential oils that are being added to skincare products. I've used several different companies. There's some of the more main ones. I've used some of the more popular ones. I've used some lesser known ones. So it really comes down to finding a company that you know, like, and trust. Now, all companies are going to tell you that their items are pure, but in order to call yourself a pure oil, you only have to contain up to 10% of a pure oil. So that word pure isn't as good as it sounds. So a so-called pure oil can be diluted by up to 49% by law. And so how would they do it? Maybe they're adding a lesser quality oil. These items could also be adulterated with fragrances or with artificial ingredients or chemicals. They might have been distilled using a harsh process, and they may also have, the use of pesticides in them. Now, according to the FDA, essential oils are safe for human consumption. However, the majority of products that I have come across over the years, whenever I ask, is this safe for me to drink? Is it okay for me to ingest? I've had, other than just a few companies, say, no, you can't ingest these. So to me, that tells me that the product is probably not as pure as they are making it out to believe that they are. So when looking for some of these products, look for therapeutic brands that don't use any adulterated oils, that they have no contaminants, no fillers. Are they organic? What part of the plant are they using? Where is it sourced? Is it non-GMO? Is it safe for consumption? So these would be all some questions that I would ask when looking for a brand. And then try one out, or try out a couple. So the most popular tend to be peppermint and lemon and lavender. And those are generally the most inexpensive as well. So another thing to keep in mind is many of the companies get their oils from the same supplier and then just private label them. So that can be too why there's such a differentiation between costs. And also remember, when you're using essential oils, that a little goes a long way. So you really only need 1 to 2 drops in most instances. And then be sure when you're trying something out for the first time that you are waiting at least 4 hours before reapplication. If you have any signs of pain or swelling, irritation, inflammation, bloating, burning, reflux, and anything else that your body is telling you is not a good sign, that's your body's way of warning you that, okay, maybe this is just not a good oil. Doesn't mean that the rest of the oils from that particular brand aren't good. It just, your body just doesn't like that particular oil. So, for example, neither my sister nor I tolerated cinnamon essential oil that was in a good brand, in a healthy product of a lotion that we tried. Both of us broke out in a rash. I can take product or items with cinnamon. I have no problem sprinkling it on my cereal, ingesting it, but both of our bodies just did not like the essential oil of the cinnamon oil. So you might also find too that when trying out an oil for the first time, yeah, it can be a little harsh if you are just using the oil by itself. So it's also good to be using a carrier oil. And so what a carrier oil does is it helps expand that surface area. So now you're spreading that little bit of oil over a much larger area versus just taking a drop or two and then trying to spread it. Sometimes it's just not going to cover the area you want or get in deep enough. So some of the different types of carrier oils, people have used olive. I've never used olive just because I don't want that olivey scent to kind of overpower some of the other oils that I use. Other things that people might use might be coconut. And so you could use generally 1 to 3 drops of the essential oil to every tablespoon of the coconut oil. If I'm using it on younger children, I use a 1-to-1 ratio. So 1 drop or less, if I can even get that out per tablespoon of oil. Now, the thing with coconut oil is that it oftentimes, just depending on the time of year or the climate that you are in, so oftentimes it is not in an oil form. So up in Minnesota here, when I purchase it, mine's always white. It's hard and white, not rock hard. But then as it gets warmer temperatures here in the summertime, or if I heat it, it turns into a liquid and then it turns clear. Almond oil is another great oil, great for skin conditions such as psoriasis or eczema. It smells heavenly. But if you have nut allergy, I found out that almonds are my #1 food sensitivity, so I no longer use it. And then we also have jojoba, and what that's nice for is that it's an anti-inflammatory. It has a long shelf life, and it's great for those with acne. So again, it really comes down to what personal preference is for you. So here are some examples of how essential oils can be used. I have found a lot of recipes and different ideas on Pinterest, different companies. So here's my Pinterest board. I don't have a lot of stuff on there, but gives you ideas on, you can use it for insect repellents and skincare and hair and so forth. So you can just blend different things together, or people have created recipes. So it's kind of a fun place to look if you're first starting out. And so we're going to switch gears now and then start talking about, all right, how can I start replacing some of the products that I may have at home that are probably not really good, and looking for things that might be healthier for you and your family. And so some of the things when we're getting into sunscreen season now, at least in my neck of the woods. And so zinc oxide and titanium dioxide appear to be among the safer and more effective ingredients when it comes to being able to repel both the UVA and the UVB rays. So it's the UVB rays that cause more of the sunburn. It's the UVA rays that tend to penetrate deeper and are thus more responsible for the cause of the skin cancer. The zinc oxide is also the only ingredient that has approved by the FDA for infants under the use of 6 months of age. Other things to look for, again, personal preferences. So if you are vegetarian or vegan, or you're just concerned about products being tested on animals, then you might want to be looking for the PETA sign. So people for the ethical treatment of animals. There's also the Leaping Bunny logos. So those might be some things that help in your decision making. This is a list of some of the skincare products that are things I've used for my skincare ritual over the years. And I'm always looking for and trying new things. So my go-to is the coconut oil. So I use organic. It's cold pressed, unrefined, organic. And I don't have a set brand. It just basically comes down what I'm able to find at the time. Bronner's, the Pure Castile soap is safe enough that it can be used for babies. Botanics by Boots is a rosewater toning spritz that is 100% organic. I've been able to find everything here either at Walmart, Target, or at Ulta. That's where the Tarte mascara comes from. These are some of the brands I've used over the years. So I like to purchase many of my items through a company, online company called Grove. And their philosophy is that they use non-toxic, cruelty-free. Their products are made with plants. They are almost through their initiative of having no plastic. So they are all going to non-plastic products. They use essential oils for their fragrances. They have botanically based ingredients. They're cruelty-free. And yeah, I can get a lot of these products, the Mrs. Meyer's, the Hello toothpaste and mouthwash, those types of things, when I go to the store. However, when I'm in a store, I like to look around and I always end up spending more than I would have liked. So this helps me keep my spending at bay. And then I also use beauty counter products. I got into it because my daughter was a consultant. She no longer is. But currently the company is going through a rebrand. And so the only place you can get their products now is at some of the Ulta stores. I like the beauty counter because they contain products from what they deemed as a never list of products. So there are over 1,800 chemicals and additives that, even though they're legal to use and fine to use in the US, the company has just chosen not to use those. Their products are a little on the pricey side, but I can also say that I can, I maybe go through 1 or 2 containers of their product over a year. So, to me, it's worth it. I also tried something called Purity Woods because it was 100% organic. I just got those products last week. I haven't tried them. And I know that some of the ingredients contained different types of flour, FLOUR. So I do have a gluten sensitivity. So I should have looked into that a little bit further. And then Native, those are brands, yeah, a little bit more on the pricey side, as most of these things are. It's always interesting to pay more for getting less as far as ingredients. But those are common products you can find just about anywhere as well. Now, makeup is supposed to be a woman's best friend, right? And some women won't be seen in public. They won't go to the gym. I even know one gal that her husband I don't know, they've been married many, many, many years, and he has never seen her without makeup. So, some of us just like to have our makeup. And as a business, the health and beauty companies are going to do whatever it takes in order to save money. And that, even if it's going to involve adding, fillers and additives and preservatives that they know may not necessarily be safe. And the issue is that new chemicals are being added all the time. So the average woman who wears makeup daily absorbs 4 pounds, 4 ounces of chemicals from makeup every year. And if a person has a problem with either of the 2 stages of their liver's ability to detoxify substances, which is probably pretty rare, where I come across somebody that doesn't have some type of a liver detoxification issue. So what happens then is, if the body can't get rid of it, doesn't know what to do with it, it sends it back into the body. And so where the body likes to put some of these things, a lot of chemicals and heavy metals and toxins and so forth, is back into the fat tissue. And so we could literally be carrying around several pounds of chemicals and other things the body can't get rid of in our fat tissue. So this could be one possible reason why women in particular may have difficulty losing weight, especially as they get older. And then tests show that even some of our most loved products over the years are Garnier and CoverGirl. Some of these things could be having products that or contaminants that are linked to cancer, such as PFOA. The FDA has sponsored some studies, and they found that ultraviolet radiation skin damage was doubled for those that were products that contained alpha hydroxy acid. And then look at all the additional chemicals. We talked about lipstick with just the lead, but there are other types of heavy metals that are in a lot of these products. And then carbon black is the dark black powder that makes our mascara and our eyeliner and some of those types of things dark. And so it's produced from carbon black, which we had already discussed earlier, or the coal tar, and that is linked again to an increased risk of cancer and organ damage. And so I know what you're thinking. How or why would the government possibly allow any of these things to happen, all these harmful products? Well, back in 1938, the FDA allowed the cosmetic industry to self-regulate their own products. And there has been very little change made with that process ever since. And so the majority of a lot of these types of cosmetics and products are going to go right from manufacturing right until the store shelves. I mean, testing is costly. So if you can save some expense, most companies are probably going to do that. And, especially if you aren't going to have, somebody looking over your shoulder to make sure that, you're producing a lot of the right stuff. So yeah, companies know that they're putting some of these harmful ingredients in their products, but again, their thought is, well, we're just putting in such small amounts. What's the big deal? But again, we are bombarded with so many different products and we are dealing with toxin overload and our health is now paying for it. So there is a small safety net in that the cosmetics companies are required to report to the FDA any serious adverse reactions that have occurred as a result of using their products. So I don't know about you, but to me, it doesn't sound like the FDA is doing much of a job when it comes to watching over this type of industry. So you may be wondering, well, then who's got our back? So fortunately, we do have independent sites like Campaign for Safe Cosmetics that have been implemented, and they inform the consumer of what is in our products and the possible health issues that could occur as a result of using those products. There's also another company that's called Think Dirty, and that's another company. This organization is to educate the consumer on the cosmetics industry, and then it allows the consumer to make an informed decision or choice on the type of product that it wants to use. So you can download the app and then you are able to scan the barcode of a product and of any personal care or beauty or household item, a cleaning product type of thing. And then it will tell you what the ingredients are and if there is any type of or what they might suggest for a healthier option if warranted. And please, I don't want you to think that, oh my gosh, this presentation is also gloom and doom. No, that's not what this was about. I just wanted to provide you with, information and knowledge because I think we all know that knowledge is power. And so now that you are a little bit more informed, you might be a little bit overwhelmed and you may be wondering, well, okay, now where do I go from here? So the first decision would be to make, all right, is there something that I do want to change? Was something, a desire sparked in you today? And then what I would suggest is that you just choose one item at a time. Perhaps you've got something on your shopping list or something that you are close to running out of, whether it's toothpaste or foundation or skin cream or shampoo or whatever the case is. Check the ingredients on that. And if they're okay, then I would keep it. Keep using the product. You want to look for something that's maybe better, fine. But there's probably, bigger things to get off of your list. But if not, well, then the next decision would be, okay, do I want to go out and look for something healthier or do I want to maybe try to make some of my own healthier products? And then I would just continue on with the process. If you try to do everything all at once, not only is this going to be very hard on your budget, but it's going to be also very overwhelming and very time consuming, and you'll probably get pretty frustrated with the process. So I would take it slow and keep going. Another thing to be on the lookout for is the word natural. A lot of companies just put the word natural on a lot of their products because, you know, studies have shown that if that word is on a product, whether it's food or a beauty label, that people are going to purchase it. The thing is that there isn't an exact term for what the word natural means. So it's really up for interpretation, both on the end of the producer and on the consumer. So again, if I hit home with anything, I think one of the biggest things that you could be on the lookout for would be that word fragrance free. The other thing that I like to look for are organic products and non-GMO products. So those are probably the top things I look for more so. And again, I didn't want to just provide the bad news, so I wanted to provide you with some samples of or ideas on some better brands, things that you could probably try. And this came from the Think Dirty app. So I just went online. They had things that were broken down in different categories. So like soap and body wash and shampoo and shaving cream and whatever. And then I just picked some of the more top common ones that I thought people, at least brand names, would be more familiar with. So you may not be able to find the exact, you know, like I don't know, the coconut and hibiscus illuminating hand and body scrub, but at least there were a lot of the Shea Moisture Raw Shea Butter products that were available. So I'd say that that's a pretty good brand. And again, you can get all of these brands, you know, at your Walmart, your Walgreens, your Target. So they should be pretty easy to find as well. And again, just some quick tips just by using a couple of products. Apple cider vinegar, for instance. So natural anti-inflammatory, it can be used to, you know, as a toner, a facial toner. It can also be used, you know, put in a spray bottle and use it for any sunburn relief. Then the other thing is you can also use cornstarch in place of a dry shampoo. Just sprinkle it on your hair, rub it in, and then comb out the extra. So simple. Lot of uses just for coconut oil. So as a night cream or an eye cream, it fights wrinkles and hydrates the skin and helps to get rid of dark circles and puffy eyes. For rashes, it's great for a moisturizer, and it also helps with collagen production. It's great for people that have psoriasis or what's the other one? Psoriasis, eczema. And I use it daily in place of a body lotion. Sometimes I'll add some essential oils to it. So that's my go-to. I've also used it as a hot oil treatment. And then in case you are interested in using some of your, or making some of your own homemade products, I took a community ed class a couple of years ago, learned how to make soap. So that was fun. I've also tried other homemade products, bath bombs and dry shampoos and sugar scrubs and a lot of those things. And so it is fun when you can make some of these products and you like it and you can give it away to friends or family members for Christmas or Mother's Day or birthdays or whatever. So something, you know, that you made and it's kind of fun. So this first recipe is how you could put together a facial cleanser. So again, you could use fresh frozen aloe or aloe gel. So I have an aloe plant, and that's what I would do. I would just, you know, snap some of those aloe leaves or whatever you call them, leaves, and until I got enough gel. I'll be honest, I have not made this particular product because I have found stuff that I've liked. And then you could certainly finish this off with the Bragg's apple cider vinegar as your toner. Maybe put on a little coconut oil for your skin. And bam, there you go. Here's one for homemade deodorant. And unfortunately, what a lot of these, okay, it's a deodorant. I haven't found a natural antiperspirant yet because that's kind of defeating the purpose. When we are sweating, that's one of the ways that the body is able to eliminate toxins. So that is what a lot of the products on the shelf are going to have. They have aluminum, and so that is, you know, a heavy metal, but what that does is that it clogs up the pores to prevent sweating. And then aluminum, however, is also linked to Alzheimer's. It affects our estrogen levels and can increase the risk of breast and prostate cancer. So, this is one way, but I've found some other, products to use. Now, this is one that I have done. Actually, I did this in a group class and it worked very, very well. So, sugar scrub. And a lot of different scents that you can add in this one. And so it all personal taste, I should say scent, but I've used things like lavender, geranium, citrus, peppermint. But again, this one was a lot of fun and very easy to do, and I've given that as gifts. And yeah, you can use it also as a hand, lip, or foot scrub. That's just going to depend on how much of the sugar you add. So now I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you would eat these homemade skincare products? I know I would. So, and here's kind of a safe rule of thumb to start following it. So if you are looking to purchase a product, if you couldn't eat it, or if you wouldn't eat it, not meaning that you would, but then you really shouldn't put it on your skin. So in review, the key to having healthy and youthful and healthy looking skin are number one, do hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. So again, I know we talked about those guidelines a little bit earlier, but even if you can strive for getting in an additional 1 to 2 glasses of pure fresh water every day, that would really up the game, especially more so now as the weather starts to get warmer. Good restful sleep, that's a whole presentation onto itself, but I think you all know when you can see the signs of when you don't get enough sleep and you just look tired and kind of worn out and haggard. And avoiding sugar and processed food, that's really the enemy of the skin. And then at the same time, increasing your green leafy vegetables and produce of all colors, again, to get in all of those nourishing nutrients that you find in these types of products. So if I didn't have the resources or references listed on the slide, here's some additional ones for you. And then I have my list of references. So with that, I know we're just about at time. So if there's any quick questions, comments, anything, I think we have a minute or two.